You're such an asshole.
Once upon a time, there's a young guy called Cappy, and he used to play video games and get drunk during the day and not work out, and enjoyed a very nerdy life. And then one day, Asshole Consulting came along, and his life changed forever, and even though it's the weekend, he's got to work. Welcome to Asshole Consulting. You could go to assholeconsulting.com, where I, your older brother, Cappy, will give you the elderly brotherly advice. Actually, this request really has nothing to do with older brother. This is more philosophical and an interesting one. Political, economics, historical. A young man writes, "Hey Cappy, I recently had an awakening regarding the liberal left. A little bit about myself. You're from the Middle East. I want to keep you as anonymous as possible for your own sake. Born in Iran, who came to the U.S. in the 80s with my parents as refugees. At the time, probably still, Christians, being a minority religion, were being persecuted by the Islamic Iranian regime under the leadership of the Khomeini." Well, they wouldn't do that. They're for diversities. I was 7 years old at the time. Now I'm this age. I grew up in a middle-class household in a liberal state, with both of my parents having to work to make ends meet while only on government assistance for the first few months until my parents were able to find work. Well, have them teach a class to the rest of these new immigrants that just decided to parasite off of you and me. I graduated with a bachelor's degree and zero debt. I had three things play in my favor at the time. One, tuition was much cheaper than it is today for unlimited credits. Second, oh, that's right, California had pretty cheap tuition. Still does, if I recall correctly. I was working a part-time job to pay for it. And third, I was living with my parents, so rent was free. To make a long story short, I am now in programming with a stable career and able to support my family so that my wife can stay at home and raise them. I guess the points I'm trying to make here are that, one, I only have this country to thank, and two, I have a different perspective regarding America that a natural-born citizen just doesn't have. Yeah, you had Ronald Reagan. If you came here in the 80s, you had Ronald Reagan. And that's probably the last hurrah we had for traditional Americanism. Politics never interested me until I received my first paycheck and noticed a third of my income was going to various state and federal taxes and entitlements. I've always lived by conservative principles, even while not knowing what conservatism is in the political sense. You'd be amazed, well, probably you wouldn't, but you would be amazed how many people on the left, especially blacks and other minorities, especially blacks, if they just took the fucking time to inventory themselves, say, what do I believe, and then look up the platforms of the different political, like, ugh. I'm still of the belief that if the Republicans want to get their dicks out of their own asses, they could easily win over the black male vote, but they don't want to. Well, I'm not racist. Pat you on the head, little black man. Yes, we waged a war for you 160 years ago. What have we done recently? We've just sucked the Democrat cock this entire time, saying we'll give you 98% of what the Democrats will. Yes. Oh, the Republicans should so hire me. All right. At the same time, I considered the left as conservatives who had just not realized it yet, as strange as it may seem. In other words, I thought all this left-right fighting was just a game for adults, but at the end of the day, both sides come together in the best interests of America. I gave leftist politicians... Okay, so here's the thing. You got to separate the Democrat people who, I would say at least half of the population have a heart, and they just want to help out the poor, their fellow downtrodden man. And so there is an element of truth to what you're saying here. But I gave leftist politicians the benefit of the doubt. No, leftist politicians are greedy, scum-sucking, evil scum. They are evil. This is why we came up with the Clary test, to show you the likes of Obama and some Republican politicians too. These people just want to live off of the system. They don't want to work at all, and they will do anything, including sell the country down the road, if that means they can avoid it. Look at Hillary Clinton. Do you think Hillary Clinton had the slightest inkling of selflessness and altruism? Do you think she really thought she was the best candidate for the job? I mean, you could say the thing for Donald Trump, all right? But do you, I mean, really? I mean, that a lot of politicians, left and right, but the left is, I damn well say, near 100% of them. Most of them do not care about their fellow man. They do not care about the future of the country. If they would, they'd balance the budget, but they don't. And they just want to get voted in so they never have to work a real job in their entire fucking life. And then when they're dead, they won't give a fuck because they're dead. But the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren will all have a ton of things. But anyway. Thinking that they just have a massive following of jobless, illiterate, lazy socialist parasites that they have to somehow control. In a way, I thought these leftist politicians did us all a service. I thought there was a clear line in the sand that both sides of the aisle would not cross. Nope, when it came down to brass tacks. All this fruitful thinking came to a crash when I recently witnessed a few things that shook me to the core. One is the embrace of Islam. I came from a country where I witnessed a fellow classmate run into the bathroom to vigorously wash his hands after shaking my hand because his father told him that non-Muslims were haram, in other words, unholy, dirty people, and that we could not be friends. Yeah, I mean, does having more immigrants from Muslim countries, and the religion really has nothing to do with it, from second and third world countries, does that help the Democrat Party? Does that help Democrat politicians get elected? Yes, because they vote for more government welfare. They want to live here. Don't think this is for freedom or their refuge. View it as money. They want to come here and live off the people. That's it. They want free money. And we could discuss religion or ethnicity or what country. It doesn't really. They want free shit. That's what they want. And the Democrats are going to give it to them. And these people will keep these Democrats in power. Again, there's same thing with communism. Right? The Democrats, they don't care about the track record of Islam. They don't care about the track record of communism. If it gets them a vote and they can live in their little pearly gated communities, they don't live in the ghetto. You ever notice how the conservative men and women who work tend to have a lot more minority friends than the elite liberal limousine liberals? Limousine liberals, they never had a cup of coffee with my buddy Richard. Well, actually, Richard and I don't have cups of coffee. We smoke cigars. He's a different character. I could go a whole thing on him, but you just look. I get the look. We converse a lot with just the look. Oh, really? You think that way? And it's like, oh, fuck, he's right. God damn it. But anyway, yeah, the left will embrace the most evil things as long as it advances them, because they themselves are evil and don't care what vile ideologies, religions, viruses. As long as they get the vote, as long as they're in power, they don't care what they do to the country. I mean, they will sell their own children, because they do. It is their children. Their children get to live in this shit. I grew up in this culture at least till 7, so I know that embracing, accepting, and importing people from this culture is going to be a disaster. I guess I don't have to say that since we see what's going on in Europe. Second was the attack on law enforcement. I hold this notion that the left would never attack the very people who made civilized society possible, but again, I was wrong. So yeah, does it benefit the left? Let's attack cops. Why? Because a disproportionate percentage of poor people and minorities think the cops are their enemy. All right? So we get the vote from that. I know it's, like you said, you are looking into a dark chasm. You are looking into the abyss. I'm simply telling you what the abyss is saying. And confirming your suspicions and your observations. Like, oh my God, is it that bad? Yep, yeah, it's that bad. And explaining the psychology of the left as to why they do it. And it's not complicated. It's just they want power. And even they want money. They're just a bunch of lazy. Laziness explains everything. Laziness explains why 2/3 of spoiled brat American brats major in the liberal arts. Laziness explains women going on to get worthless master's degrees and working in make-work government job. Laziness explains why we outsource our children to daycare. Laziness explains taking anything. Why the majority of immigrants, legal and not, go on welfare. It's human nature. It explains everything. And it's almost, if you look at it from a Darwinistic point, it almost becomes clinical. It becomes Darwinistic. It becomes not passionate, unemotional. It's like these people are simply acting in their best interests. Laziness is a great survival strategy, hardwired into every human's brain. And it's only a few people that evolutionize and advance their brains beyond this, let's just collect as much free crap from other people as possible, because that was it's only a few people that get educated, and I don't even say educated, but epiphanize. I would say their brains evolve to the point like, well, wait a minute, we can hustle. But in any case, laziness will explain everything. But well, not everything. The vast majority of behavior from people. It will. Wives divorcing husbands in California once the 10 years are up because they get alimony. I mean, it explains everything. Everything! Kids falling asleep in class. Some of it's not malicious. Some of it's just like, yeah, kid, I'd fall asleep in class too. I would too. So yeah, it's truly frightening being wrong about the left. The notion that they also want what's best for America is out the window is unsettling to say the least. I'd like your take on this idea that there's this untalked about understanding of what makes America America, and there being a line that politicians would not cross for the sake of preserving this identity. Well, I asked, let me reread this, and because I was a little bit confused. I say, well, the truth, like, what do you mean? Can you expand? He says, thanks for taking my request. What I mean by America is the value system in general that we kind of sort of cling on to. Basically, what makes America differ from the shitholes we see in the rest of the world. And so the video response, I work, never mind on this. Alright, so let's go back to the original question. Just want a little bit of clarification. I'd like your take on this idea that there's this untalked about understanding of what makes America America, and there being a line that politicians would not cross for the sake of preserving this identity. Okay. There used to be. Okay? And we could see this in World War II, where the Japanese attacked us, and the country was pretty much united by that time. Be it FDR, who was probably one of the biggest socialist Democrats out there, and who my political history is not that knowledgeable, as who was his opposite number at the Republican Party. It didn't matter. Under a Democrat president, we rallied together as a country and probably had the most American episode in the history of America. And we went and we fought World War II. There's an insane amount of patriotism. We had this, we were going to defend our freedom. We were going to defend our rights. We were going to defend America for countries clear across the thing. But Japan attacked us like, okay, we're coming in now and we're going to nuke you fuckers. We are going to fucking kill you. So there was something absolutely worth protecting, and politicians came and worked together and set aside their differences. The same amount of people got killed, roughly, in the terrorist attacks of 9/11. And you compare what ended up happening, the left could not jump quickly enough to stop the hippies, the 70s protests, 60 hippies, and the baby boomer leftists, the people in power back then. They could not rush enough to stop about going to war. They could not get on the anti-American bandwagon, especially leftist politicians, because things have changed since the attack in Pearl Harbor to the 9/11 attack. And that is, the leftists, predominantly the left in this country, valued their ideology more than the freedoms that this country and Americanism allowed them to have. They valued their religion more. They valued their politics more than the country itself. This is why, like, Moby was, he's not a politician, but Moby, the music guy, he was like, that's great, we just, like, when the towers came down, he said something like, good, it improves my view, or we deserve it, or something like that. That's where these scum came out. Now, how that happened is because what the United States, Vietnam War, and all those things set aside, the United States is basically so successful. I've said it before, capitalism spoils its participants. And the baby boomer generation, you saw it was the most spoiled generation ever, and then it begat two more generations after that of spoiled, worthless pieces of shit. No one had to go through the Great Depression. No one had to go through the galvanizing experiences of World War I, the Great Depression, and World War II. And Americans became fat and lazy. And they didn't care to study, they didn't care to learn history, and no one taught them being appreciative. I would also claim that the Soviet Union was incredibly successful at infiltrating and corrupting institutions within the United States that was and still is the soil by which future generations would grow up in. Academia, the public schools, Hollywood, media, and stuff like that. So we have a weakening, an increasingly anti-American, and a completely worthless, spoiled bunch of lazy fucks. Just a bunch of worthless fucking people, right? So that by the 50 years or whatever between Pearl Harbor and 9/11, whereas one would make us go all out, we're going to take over the world and we'll amass the world's largest army. Maybe the Soviets had a larger army. We're just going to fuck shit up. to protect it. Now it's, well, we probably deserved it. Well, I'm cheering it on. There's an element, we are no longer united, right? So the reason for that, I'm just trying to explain the psychological, the parental, the familial, the environment in which these people grew up in. So 50 years later, you have at least a large or significant size segment of the population, baby boomers include, but definitely Gen X, and by then the millennials are a little too young. But you had a group of people, politicians included, especially on the left, influenced by Soviet socialism and communism, influenced by academia, influenced by the media, and to an increasing extent, corporations not so much back then, but certainly now with the social justice warring and the virtue signaling, you have a bunch of people conditioned to put their ideology and their politics ahead of the country itself. Past 30, 40 years of blame America first, anti-Americanism in the schools. You understand it because you came from it's like Soviet people from the former Soviet bloc say, are you fucking joking me? Communism sucks. And you got these spoiled cunty American, communism is great. They were using their iPhones and they have food and electricity and fucking none of them went to Yugoslavia in 1990. You know what it's like, but these people don't. They are in this echo chamber of more or less infinite wealth because the government borrows all this money. Pampered, spoiled, never been challenged, never been put through the ringer, never really had their freedoms threatened. And they're easy marks for evil forces within the world, Islam, communism, socialism, whatever, foreign and domestic, to come and co-opt them and overtake them. So from this crop, from this soil, has grown our current crop of people. Since we are a democracy, we pick people from this crop to go and head up our government. And now no longer do people run for office because they want to be statesmen, because they want to help out America, because they want to help out Americans, because they truly want to do public service. Now they're in it for themselves. They're in it for their ego, their ideology, and is why they put there is no line in the sand anymore. These people, look at Trudeau. I know he's not American, he's Canadian, but look at Premier Trudeau. He is a perfect example of what we're talking about. Do you think that little spoiled pussy fuck, who's never worked a job in his life, is the fucking son? I admit we have Bush. I understand that. Nepotism, I'm against it, but we're talking about, do you think that little piece of shit pussy fuck gives a flying shit about Western civilization, history, what we have been fighting for since Greek times, to get the government out of people's lives, to free people for freedom, to have democracy? Do you think he gives a fuck? He doesn't give a shit. Justin Trudeau, just like Obama, just like Pelosi, I even say Bush, is in it for Justin Trudeau. Hillary Clinton is in it for Hillary Clinton. And when you view it from that way, there's no line in the sand. There's no core. It is all about them and maybe their ideology of leftism and socialism, which has been successfully replaced. Any kind of true patriotism, any kind of true appreciation for freedom, any kind of hatred or healthy fear of tyranny, be it in the form of theological tyranny in Islam. You could say even the Inquisition back in the days, but us Westerners got our shit together 600 years ago. Communism, socialism, which is nothing more than rank theft and parasitism, they don't care. Justin Trudeau, Hillary Clinton, the left in general, and some spoiled brat Republicans as well, they are in it for themselves, and if they're not in it for a financial reason, they are in it for the pre-programmed ideology that they've been conditioned to have, and that is virtue signaling, going green, feminism, whatever modern day supplemental religion or replacement religion has been put in there, and they've swallowed it whole. They're sheep. They're fucking sheep. I used to think, like, how could these people not get it? Didn't they know teachers were our enemy? I had a distinct, natural distrust of my teachers. And it turns out the reason why, I'm a fucking genius. That's why. I know that sounds arrogant and cocky, but it's true. Those of you who fell asleep in class, you were the rebels. You're like, God, these teachers are so fucking boring. What the fuck? And no, I'm not going to listen to the ozone layer. I'm not going to go green. Fuck you. Well, that's because our brains are a little bit more evolved. But man, that's a rare percentage. The rest of the people just, they cannot wait to drink the Kool-Aid. Because again, I think the Soviets were very good. Communists are very good at psyops, at just selling to base human desires for laziness. to give them this ideology, this worthless leftist religion, in replacement for work, the nuclear family, freedom, wealth, capitalism, fun. I mean, we had it, guys. We had it, but it just they did too good a job. They did too good a job, and were too patient at planting the seeds in the correct socialist soil that today, the World War II generation is gone, and now we got baby boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials. Where did they all come from? They all came from academia, the public schools, and they're all a bunch of dumb motherfuckers. They're dumber than, I know, there's some smarter ones, I know. But they're all like, we gotta go green. Communism and Islam, no, that's all right. They're good. They're really good. So so there is no agreement anymore. I would even say the left and the right hate each other so much. The left because they've been brainwashed to, and the right because any self-respecting person. I even kind of alluded to this before in the article I wrote about the London terror attacks. I think the left and the right hate each other more here, but we have it so good we're not gonna stop. I know. I personally probably hate the left more than I do Muslim terrorists, because at least Muslim terrorists I can understand. It's like, well, you came from this delusional religion, and you're an extremist part of it, and you come from, okay, I can see it. I disagree with you wanting to kill everybody. But the left, they're just a bunch of spoiled little brats. Just a bunch of spoiled little piece of shit brats. They have no excuse. And they're sheep. They're just sheep. Where was it going? Oh, so I think there's more hatred between, there's no line, there's no agreement anymore. I mean, there's just a visceral hatred between the left and right in this country. And when you're a house divided, finally, anything anybody else can come in, especially when one half of the country wants these people to come in that are bad for the country, that's going to simply bolster their politicians' lifelong political careers, these career politicians. That's what's that greed, that laziness, that selfishness, and that evil to throw what brilliance that 5,000 years, if you include the Greeks, more like 4,000, has worked hard for, hundreds of millions of people died for, to have this pinnacle achievement of freedom, a republic, getting the government, be it a theocracy, a tyrant, or just a tribal chieftain, getting them out so that the government serves the people and not the other way around. We're throwing that all away because we're too successful. America was too successful. It allowed people to get lazy. And this is just the natural evolution of everything has a life cycle. Now we're on the downside. And we're going to go back. What I'm really curious about is to see all these leftist forces come in, take over the country, or countries, take over Western civilization. Oh, they're going to fight to the illegal aliens from Mexico are going to fight blacks. Blacks are going to fight the Muslims are going to want their. It's going to be great. Feminists are going to come in. Communists are going to. Okay, all right. Let's see it. Let's see it happen. And humanity, especially the United States, Western civilization, they will throw it away because we did not inoculate or raise our children correctly. All right. So basically, why is there no longer a line in the sand? You're right, there is no longer a line in the sand. And the reason why is you can't look at these adults, these politicians we have, especially on the left, as adults, view them as spoiled little hippie cunts that just have gray hair now. And Bernie Sanders is a perfect example. He's never grown up. He's the same piece of shit 17-year-old hippie dipshit who lived off of his parents that he is today. He just happens to have gray hair. He hasn't changed. His mind has not evolved. It's those evil, rich, fat cats. And he will vote in a larger state, a larger government, which is what all of human history, at least Western civilization, the entire history of that has been fighting. So feminism, communism, socialism, the Democrat Party, diversity, all this other shit is simply going to undo all that work of 4,000 years ago in about 60 years. All right? That's why I wrote the book, Enjoy the Decline. You're not going to stop it. The people are too stupid. They're too dumb. I know you came from a genuinely tyrannical situation, a truly oppressive situation. You know the definition of tyranny. You're about to find out, you're about to go into another one. I mean, you're going to be lucky because you're a minority, So they're not going to give you this bullshit. You got privilege because you're white. All right? But this is not going to change the fact that you are going to face a decreasing economic growth, a worsening economy, which is what we have. This is not a debate. This is not my opinion. And man, I really wish you didn't have kids. I really wish you didn't. So you're going to have to do a damn good job preparing your kids. Have them go into STEM. Have them do what they're going to do in this increasingly worsening environment. Not just economically, but politically as well. Because heaven help you if your kid makes over 6 figures and is successful. All right? And I kind of almost fear for you because, you got the nuclear family. That is going to be attacked even more so, I think, down the road. But yeah, man, I would be, and maybe start thinking, Russia, a little bit tyrannical, but they kind of like it if you work. New Zealand, maybe I'm on the phase out stage. I did the math. I got like 35 years left to live. I'm like, well, I'm 42, over the hill. They just have to keep the lights on for me. That's all they do. Just keep the lights on for me. That's all I want. And then I'm going to watch this shit show happen. And that's going to be the greatest movie ever. And if you can get to that level of cynicism and nihilism and stoicism, it's actually kind of entertaining and nice because you actually see that these leftists, they're winning, but they're miserable because the human condition, the human brain is not programmed for to enjoy socialism and commonness and no achievement. Like simply being paid to sit on your ass and collect a government check and go through mindless, worthless, pointless, zero intellectual content like through the social sciences and the liberal arts and have, quote, a career in that. It's not rewarding because it's not real. And you watch these people literally waste their lives. And if anything, one of the greatest gifts to have is the sanity and the clairvoyance, what's what I'm looking for, the ability to realize it's going on. Like when you see it happening, you're like, oh, this is what's happening. Imagine being caught in the middle of that. I liken it to being a soldier in World War I. You had no fucking clue what was going on. None whatsoever. Fuck. Where the Germans, where the British, what the fuck is that? Oh, here's some gas. Do the trench go this way? Is someone coming this way? I mean, you had no idea what was going on. But you get back, you can at least have the sanity. You're at least not being shelled in the trenches of World War I. Or if you are, you know what's going on, why, and that makes life a lot easier to know exactly what's happening. Anyway, if you guys got questions, go to assholeconsulting.com. I will answer your questions for a lot of money. Well, actually, not a lot of money, but a fair price. We also have my books, Bachelor Pad Economics, Curse of the High IQ, Reconnaissance Man, Worthless, The Young Person's Independence Over Pad to Choosing the Right Major. What else? I enjoy the decline. I got others. And then we have the Clary Podcast. You can find that on SoundCloud. And then CaptainCapitalism.blogspot.com, my blog. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.